This is Gary Butterfield.
This is Cole Ross.
And welcome to Best Quality Vacuum, our episode on the pilot of Breaking Bad.
Yeah, originally aired January the 20th, 2008, which is a long time ago. And we're off to the races, Gary.
We are off to the races. This on the DVD and Blu-ray is called Breaking Bad, not Pilot.
Can't do it. Not going to do it.
I like it more than Pilot. I know it's called Pilot on streaming, but Pilot.
Okay. I just I like the symmetry with the you have the episode of Breaking Bad called Better Call Saul, and you have the episode of Better Call Saul called Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I like that too.
It confuses
I think Pilot's a bad name.
It's a pretty bad name. Yeah. I liked the reach on the wiki where they said a pilot that could also be considered lighting the pilot light on some of the burners that they use in the never change fandom.
And I was really worried that you were going to like put that in the notes.
God, no.
No, I mean, I know. I was experiencing anxiety this morning. It was a day that ends in no why. Let's get into it.
Let's do. This is written and directed by Vince Gilligan, who usually in later, usually does like season closers.
Mm-hmm. We get all our characters here. We talked about them during the last episode, but we're introduced them, for realsies, and we get our inciting incident as Walt gets his cancer diagnosis and learns that making meth can give you money.
Yeah.
And here is where we remind everybody about our spoiler policy. We're going to be pretty loose with this. We're going to talk about things in context. I assume that you have watched through the current season and probably Breaking Bad. If I can direct your attention to 3 minutes ago in the podcast, this first aired January 20th, 2008. That was a long time ago. Just like Obama's getting inaugurated. Like, this is ancient history.
Yes.
So, watch Breaking Bad if you want to listen to the show.
Please.
We're not going to be coy boys very much during this.
Mm-hmm. It's worth talking about as we start season 1. This really didn't make sense to talk about in the overall series overview. But season 1 is really weird in context of, all of the others. Both in terms of like it's more comedic in tone. It's kind of before they found, I guess they evolved because the series is about change and the series is going to change. There's more, just hijinks happening in S1. Also, there's like swearing and hand jobs and stuff.
It is like a teenager's idea of an adult show initially. with all the HJs and stuff. One of the things I'm going to say, and I don't know if you agree with this, season 1 is the clumsiest and worst they are with needle drops. Mm-hmm. Some of the soundtrack choicing in season 1 I find deeply cringy, just in an embarrassing to have on the screen feeling.
Yeah. The cook montage that we have here, introducing the cook montage, or maybe it's when they're after Walt has done the phosphine gas, but where it's just that like just a Spanish language rap metal.
Just unironic use of a rap metal kind of thing, and that's rough to me. It's fine, it doesn't ruin the show or anything like that, but that's something they get way better at.
Yes. Yeah.
And the somehow like legally distinct version of The Passenger that plays over the end. Like, it's not The Passenger, but it's The Passenger.
It's The Passenger. It's a song called Out of Time Man.
Out of Time Man. The Passenger by Iggy Pop, basically.
Yeah. Uses basically the same chords.
In addition to H jobs, there's also titties.
Mm-hmm.
All this stuff kind of goes away.
Yes.
A lot of stuff got cut for time. The original version of this episode is about an hour and stuff. They had to cut it down for TV. The version that you can watch on streaming is the full version. The AMC will still air every once in a while. We'll still air the full version, which is interesting because it's such a prestige show.
Yeah, they'll occasionally air the full version, but it has to be like after 10 p.m. or something like that. They're like network policies that are outlined in the in the commentary. One thing that is also weird about season 1 is the fact that it was cut short due to the writer's strike. So there are things that are set up here that were kind of, derailed. Famously, Jesse was going to die at the end of season 1 to kind of be just a stark moment for Walt as he decides whether or not to continue. Them not getting to that episode gave them time to reconsider based on how good Jesse was, how good Aaron Paul was. And there's kind of a miniature version of that here. They filmed the pilot, and there was, going to be a delay between this and the rest of the series because they had to, try and sell it. Our villain here, kind of the antagonist for the first arc, Crazy 8, was originally going to die in the RV, but the cast loved that actor, Maximino Arciniega, so much that they begged Vince to keep him on. And that led to some of the best stuff in the first half of the season, are basically dealing with how do we handle the fact that Crazy 8 is still alive?
How do you handle mostly killing somebody?
Yes.
As opposed to completely killing somebody, which is a different problem. And, both those problems form these first few episodes in a way that I think really kind of makes the show stand apart, right? Like one of the things that Breaking Bad does is it deals with consequence. Stuff like that. One of the remits, we talked about this last episode, but Vince Gilligan wanting to make crime difficult and not sexy. Something else, you read a lot of stories about this show of them being willing to let the show kind of tell itself.
Yeah.
So things like this change as it went. It isn't obsessed with its kind of master plan. That it has, like it lets the universe, I feel like Vince Gilligan and the crew kind of let the universe talk to them with these things. Like this would be better, and this led to tons of just wonderful stuff. Like when you leave yourself open to certain amounts of like serendipity, you get really good results.
Absolutely, and that comes through like when you hear them talk about it. Like Vince Gilligan is very gracious, kind of let's say showrunner as far as it goes. He is extremely reticent to take any kind of sole credit. He does not think auteur theory is a thing. Everything is everybody, and like he will listen to what people suggest or ask for, and allow other actors and stuff to take notes from each other.
Yeah. Do you think that he is so gracious because he has the voice of a banjo playing cartoon hound dog?
That has to be part of it.
You have to be patient when you grow up with a real Huckleberry Hound kind of voice. Like, it's so charming.
It's absolutely a real part of his charm. To the point where like when he tells stories about where he had to like kind of put his foot down on something, it's hard to imagine him doing it because you only ever see him in the mode where he is just being the most,
world's biggest sweetheart.
World's biggest sweetheart. Like, and that doesn't happen with crazy talented people that often,
No, it's such a he comes off and we don't know everything about him. And this is a dangerous thing to think, but he ends up being one of those creators that his mode and the way he operates ends up feeling like behavior worth modeling. Similar to like the more you learn about REM, or at least that was our experience. Like, these people have it figured out.
Yeah.
They know how to be successful and how to be creative. It feels like Vince Gilligan is like that as well.
Yeah.
On the DVD or Blu-ray set of this, there's not tons of commentary. There's commentary on this first episode and then on Crazy Handful of Nothing, which will come up on, of course. But the commentary is good.
Yeah.
It seems like it'd be real fun. Yeah. To be there.
It's way too crowded. There are way too many people and there's lots of overtalk. It's the entire main cast. Plus on this one, they had Lynn Willingham, the editor, there, and then obviously Vince Gilligan as well. And it is just a real good time.
Yeah, it's I like it. Everybody is funny and likable during it. It's mostly technical stuff about how to achieve like certain shots, and like I'm interested in that stuff, and I like the result of it. I'd be lying if I said that was what drew me to these shows.
Right.
Like I am plot and character motivated more than I am cinematography motivated, even though I recognize that like this and specifically Better Call Saul are very beautifully shot.
Yeah.
I like that and I can appreciate it. It's not my personal weak spot.
Yeah.
So time spent kind of explaining that. Same thing when you read about it and you read kind of trivia about how they set this stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
It feels a little inconsequential to me personally.
I mean, I think I'm a little bit more into it, but also it doesn't bear on our approach for the show outside of like if there's a fun story about specifically the actor suffering to get this kind of stuff. But yeah, it's more just like a neat to know, but I like to, just kind of passively enjoy the results of the decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, Breaking Bad, the places where people are not speaking are important.
Yes.
But they are there to lend tension and provide relief from high stakes scenarios and dialogue for me.
Yeah.
Or profound acts of emotional violence, but that happen in dialogue. Generally,
Yes.
like I'm a word person. I'm here for words.
Mm-hmm. Something that came out in the commentary that I would not have known otherwise. So they had a cinematographer, director of photography work for them. John Toll is the name. He is the only cinematographer to win 2 back-to-back Oscars. He did it on Legends of the Fall and Braveheart. So they really got a heavy hitter in here.
They got the Braveheart guy.
Yeah, they got the Braveheart guy coming in here and kind of slumming it in TV work and, kind of basically establishing a lot of the look and stuff here, setting a bar like this. I believe it was nominated for a cinematography Emmy and possibly won. I can't recall exactly. But John Toll's like a big Hollywood guy, worked with Tom Cruise a lot, with the Wachowskis, and was the cinematographer on the Adjustment Bureau, Gary.
I love the Adjustment Bureau. They're always adjusting. They're always getting up to some adjustments. Last night I watched Jackass 4.5 and found out that during the opening sequence of that, which is a kaiju attack with Chris Pontius's penis, they also got like this, Henson Muppeteer, legend in puppeteering, and like got all of these very, very big heavy hitters for that kind of thing. Nice. In a kind of a parallel, to arguably less artful results.
Well,
since it's about a gigantic penis kaiju spraying cum all over the cast of Jackass 4 ever.
Everybody's got their own thing.
Yeah, it's all art. It all just goes in this. It all ends up in the same place at the end. Like, it's all gonna rot in between my bones when I die.
Uh-huh.
Who gives a shit? Let's get into it. So the opening to this is really important, I think, for being a hook.
Yes.
One of the things that Breaking Bad does better than a lot of shows is that this is ultimately immediate race in both ways. Like, the conventional wisdom of start a story as late as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
They do some kind of flash forward kind of stuff here in the beginning. But there's not time wasted before you get to like the good shit in this. And it begins with just this like hook immediately. We get this establishing shot in the desert. We see a pair of khakis flying by, floating to the ground as an RV blasts through.
Yeah. And we get this just amazing, the amazing interior of this RV. Walter mostly naked except for a gas mask and underwear. The trademark Hal Malcolm in middle with tidy whities, and these kind of like 3 people knocked out and rolling around, possibly dead, sloshing around in this brown liquid.
Yep.
I have a lot of questions I need answered right now.
Exactly. And that's the idea. The RV crashes, he gets out, the liquid kind of pours out. He takes off his gas mask, at this point, puts on his shirt, and he hears sirens. He thinks the police are coming for him. Mm-hmm. He holds his breath to go inside and get a gun and a camcorder and films a message to his family. One of the things we're going to be tracking through the show is Walt's crapulence. It's real popular to say like, oh, Walt was the villain he was the entire time. I don't think that's quite true. There are elements of craftiness,
yes,
initially, and the pride element comes through immediately.
Oh yeah.
In terms of being a shit. But this is still, as baby as Walt gets. Him talking to the camcorder, he says, to any police, he specifically says this is not an admission of guilt. Like, he knows the rules, and this is going to foreshadow tons of things about his character, using his silver tongue to get out of things.
Yes.
And manipulate him.
Yeah. And, like, he addresses it there, but this is for his family. And this is where he kind of names things off. He names Skyler, he names Walter Jr., and specifically says to Walter Jr., there are going to be some things that you'll come to learn about me in the next few days. I just want you to know that no matter how it might look, I only had you in my heart, which is a real good thesis statement.
It's a thesis statement.
For his justification, for his outward justification. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't even say it's a thesis statement. I would say it's something that is true here, and then it gets less true every time he says it.
Yeah.
Like, it's a spectrum. Like, I believe him in this moment. He's not doing this part for the thrill of it. He's like awake right. And he's alive. He's scared of dying, but it's not the Walt from season 5 where he's like, I liked it because I was good at it. Like, I don't think he was like real into it when those gangbangers showed up.
Yeah. No, this is like he's got zero money with no guarantee on return.
Yeah, he believes it. Like, this is, and having him say this statement in the first episode and have it progressively degrade, like photocopies of a photocopy of a photocopy, until he's saying it out of reflex more than truth is really cool.
Yeah. So I guess that's what I mean by thesis statement is like, this is an establishment of an arc for him. And like, this sentiment is going to be, it's going to stay pinned to the wall. Right.
Yes. Yeah. Even though it's going to get sun faded and fall apart. Yeah. He steals himself, walks into the road, points the gun towards the cops, and then we get our title sequence.
Like he's going to go pro ice in a hard situation.
Excellent. I can fight cops. That level of confidence. I love it.
Oh, and I love how it wilts at the end of the episode. It's so good.
We get a little thing that says 3 days earlier.
Right.
So we're going to see how we got up here.
Mm-hmm. And it's the morning of Walt's 50th birthday. Wakes up at 5 a.m., does his sad little stair stepper thing.
I desperately want to get him a TV or an iPad. You don't have to do it in front of your Nobel Prize, your Nobel consolation plaque. Yeah, just doing it in front of that feels like a way to torture yourself for no reason.
Constantly climbing and getting nowhere, looking at heights you used to reach.
It's a little on the nose in a way that nobody would do it.
It's fun. Like to start out my day bright and early with the crack of the sun, just with a little bit of heavy-handed metaphor.
Yeah, a little symbolism I like to do. He comes out. Skylar brings him his breakfast. I'm glad you have a note of this because it is a lot of eggs.
It's so many eggs. It is a 50 made out of veggie bacon, and she says, it's got no cholesterol, and you can't tell the difference. But this 50 is laid out on just a bed, just a basket, a bird's nest of scrambled eggs. It's a whole plate.
A generation of eggs, a generation of chickens died for this breakfast. More scrambled eggs than I can eat.
If I'm having a scrambled egg meal, I think two's pretty good in addition to toast and bacon.
Two's fine number of eggs.
2 is a perfectly reasonable number of eggs.
Yeah, a 3-egg omelet's a little bit much for me these days, but that's the max. Walt Jr. comes out. This breakfast arc begins. We talked about this in the last episode. RJ Mitty, really great performance in this, and is a little smartass. He's a teen, like a good kid, but a teen. He's talking about the water heater. This is underlining their money problems. Like they can't just get a new water heater. He does not like the fake bacon. He wants the real, this crap. He wants the real stuff.
I love how he says this smells like Band-Aids.
I bet you it does. It's not even turkey bacon. Like, they head to school. Another really great little moment here I like is, and this is really lived in and true to people who live with people with various disabilities, where Walt's just like, you okay? And Walt Jr.'s like, okay. And then he just lets him get out and take care of everything. Yeah. It's really lived in as an interaction.
Yeah. I also love their choice to put Walt into a Pontiac Aztec. Just a permanently just the totemic quality of that. That was kicking around at the same time as a PT Cruiser, and they were both a different kind of sad.
Yeah. Yeah. It not as much as the Esteem or Nissan Stanza, but it's a level above.
Yep.
Yeah. So Walt does, again, first season's a little bit different. It hasn't quite found its voice. So it's doing the thing where a character gives a lecture that's about what the show is. X-Men kind of thing where Walt gives a lecture on chemistry. In chemistry class, they're largely indifferent. He's talking about how it's really the study of change, growth and decay and transformation. And that's what life is. That is them laying out a thesis for the show.
Yeah.
Like it's like the thesis that Walt would want it to be.
Yes.
You know, it's about change, but change is a very value neutral word for what happens.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to like a corruption, which is
moral compromise, you know, the slow decline that you put yourself on after you cross certain thresholds. Oh yes. Yeah.
And then this Chad, named Chad, and his girlfriend are you know, fooling around, flirting, and Walt makes him go back to his seat, and he drags the seat. I'd forgotten about this. It single-handedly justifies everything Walt does. This little kid has to go.
Oh, God,
and
yes.
Anything Walt wants to do to the cartel, to his family, to Hank, I don't give a shit. Chad will pay. It's all collateral damage to make Chad pay because this little kid fucking sucks.
I mean, I would feel that way if he did anything to get retribution on Chad. It's very, I mean, like he is misplacing. There's a misdirection on this.
Chad's at the top of the cartel.
Chad.
So we don't know Chad's last name. It might be Salamanca. Like, and then the encounter with him later. Like, imagine if this guy walked up to you. Like, this guy sucks. I fucking hate Chad.
He is a shitty kid, and you hope that somebody like this eventually figures out how to be a better person. But we see his car. He's a shitty rich kid, and
or nobody's he gets dissolved in acid in a bathtub. Like it's one or the other, man.
Oh, like, here's the thing. This I think was made before like incel language made Chad into an archetype, like Chad has always been an archetype, but like, to tie the name Chad to this kind of guy. I just watched this and felt really bad for anybody normal who happened to be named Chad.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I've never met a good Chad though.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it has, reality has followed fiction there. But yeah, this kid sucks. After work, Walt has to go to his second job as a cashier at a car wash owned by a man named Bogdan, who has these incredible Bilberry eyebrows, who I love. Someone quit and Bogdan has to go work as a car wipe. And he's like, hey, we've talked about this. Like, I don't, I'm not supposed to do this. You hired me on as a clerk.
Yeah.
But he has to do it. He is undignified.
Yeah. He cannot stand up. And earlier at breakfast, Skylar was like, come home at 5. You don't stay even if he asks you. Like you agreed to. Yeah. Well, she's very invested in why we get that there. And he goes out and starts, scrubbing the wheels of this car, just down on his hands and knees, just on the floor of a car wash. Probably one of the most disgusting surfaces that there is or can be. Just all the bird shit alone, right?
Bird dirt.
But
and whose car is it?
It's Chad's, and he's laughing and taking pictures. He's going to spread this around. It's no good.
They should blow up so many nursing homes to take off half of Chad's face. I got so mad at Chad during this episode. I totally forgot about Chad because he never comes up again. The kid fucking sucks.
Yeah.
This is the kind of indignity that they're underlining to justify Walt's crapulence, and it got me 90% there just on his own. Like, Walt eventually gets home, and it's a surprise party. He's genuinely startled. He gets surprised.
I was worried he was going to hit somebody. Like his reaction. I was like, "Is that the way this goes?"
Yeah, surprise parties are crazy. Skylar is angry, because he's late, of course, and we meet the party. This crew, we're getting these kind of broad versions of everyone. We get Marie and Hank here. Hank is showing off his handgun to Walt Jr. Walt Jr. pressures his dad to grab it, and he's like, he says it's heavy, and then Hank has to emasculate him. Like that
Of
is the theme
course.
of this episode. They're really heavily emasculating Walt.
He says, "Oh, that's why they hire men. Look at this guy. He looks like Keith Richards with a glass of milk." And Hank is just entirely in the, just cackling his way through life kind of deal.
Fun uncle. He gives a toast to Walt. Says he has a brain the size of Wisconsin, but we're not going to hold that against you.
He takes his beer.
Yeah, he takes his beer from him. Like it's brutal. Has him turn on the TV to have this interview he gave about a meth bust.
Yeah. And Walt, rather than being perturbed that Hank has made his birthday party all about Hank, Walt is shocked at the amount of cash that is shown because, usual news propaganda stuff, we have to show like, we took off the streets kind of stuff. And
he
just
very
rolls
specifically,
and rolls.
I forgot this in this playthrough. He's like, how much money is that? And Hank says about 700,000. And that number ends up being one of Walt's breakpoints, if I recall, like something he thinks he has to get.
737,000. Yes.
Yeah. So like that's foreshadowed here, Hank says to Walt, he's like, hey, if you're ever interested, I'd take you on a ride along, get a little excitement in your life. In real life, you cannot go on a ride along with the DEA.
Right.
Found that out through the wiki. So the wiki takes and gives there. I think I've mentioned this before. When I worked in law enforcement, I did a ride along.
Oh, okay.
When I was a dispatcher for campus police, nothing happened. I'd just be staying in a car with people I had nothing in common with.
Yeah.
Staring out the window and trying to make conversation with two guys who loved football. It was real hard. It was very difficult.
Yeah. I don't know. I never had the desire. Probably I've got because I got a family full of cops. I just kind of got it ambiently.
Yeah. You and I have done really well for people from cop stock in some way. Later in bed, Skylar is watching her eBay listing. She flips antiques. That gets dropped, but early on, this is a big part of her character. Yes. She's got 2 minutes left and reaches over to give Walt a birthday HJ. Which like that's pretty brutal. Yeah. The distracted birthday HJ. Like I want to be really careful whenever I say anything bad about Skylar's character because the worst people online do it. But I don't know. I like to think like a birthday warrants.
It's and she says, "Oh, we're just doing you tonight," and like, I'll keep my hand away from this stove. This scene of like her trying to work him, trying to get traction, and all that they do is they're not focused on the actual actions. She's just watching the screen, and Walt is like, "Oh, this weekend I think I'm going to go check out this Mars rover exhibit," and she's like, "Well, are you going to paint the nursery?" Like, just
it's broad.
It's really broad, but like the juxtaposition there is to
me it feels too clever to me. This is too screenwriterly of a thing, similar to the Stairmaster thing. Like this feels like not realistic or lived in to me. And her simultaneously jerking him off and watching the auction, and then fist pumping at how good the auction did while she's jerking him off is absolute alien psychopath behavior.
Yes.
Like that doesn't feel real. That feels like somebody came up with a invented scenario to show how sad somebody's life could be. And that's exactly what happened, but it's clumsy. Like you could use real detail or real relevant life, relationships and do the same thing. And the show's really good at that. Usually in this first season and specifically this first episode, it's doing a lot of stuff like that, I think.
Yeah. It feels, I think the fact that it's Skylar, who's doing it makes it also feel a little bit weirder because that is not in line with
Should have been Jesse. Like, who did you want to jerk off Walt for his 50th birthday? Cool. Mr. White, happy birthday.
Given some of Jesse's
Do it.
given some of Jesse's language choices, I don't know that he'd be down. No, I mean, just if it's not going to be Skylar, don't do the scene. But also, like just in terms of like character stuff, based on what I know about her, later, this just doesn't feel,
she's not
right.
very established.
Yeah, and it's not like and also like the show is not an alien to doing heightened, dramatic stuff either, right? It just it is weird. It is weird with her and their relationship specifically, as the cement is still wet here.
I think that gets a lot more deft at this kind of thing.
Yeah,
significantly. Even in this episode, there are a lot better examples, and this feels very ham-handed to me.
Mm-hmm.
Over $56. They should divorce at that point. I just, like that's, so the next day, Walt is wheeling this barrel of chemicals, this blue chemical canister that we're going to see, in the car wash, and gets distracted by this beautiful looking dark haired woman, he sees, and then coughs and passes out.
Yes. He's been doing little coughs the entire time here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's in the hospital. He's in the ambulance being taken to the hospital, and he's like, "Oh, this is ridiculous. Just drop me, just drop me off at this corner."
It's again very early good characterization for Walt. Like the paramedic says, "Is there anyone we should call?" And he goes, "Absolutely not."
Yeah,
like his pride and him being wrapped up in the idea of the role he should have in his family is killing him, and we're seeing it kill him on screen right here.
Yeah.
Trying to make the worst choices he could make in order to preserve this self-image that is long gone and is a societal fiction anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the paramedic asks him, like, are you a smoker? Just as he's listening to his lungs. And then, here's the sequence. We get an upside down shot of Walt, coming out of the MRI machine. And then we get the diagnosis. Walt's sitting there fixated. We're not hearing the doctor talk at all, though we're seeing his mouth move. And Walt is fixated on this mustard stain on the doctor's coat. Oh, did you hear me, Mr. White? Do you understand? He's like, oh yes. He repeats the diagnosis. Lung cancer. It was a flat affect.
Yes. Lung cancer, inoperable. Best case scenario. He's totally blasted by this, and this is well performed. This shell shock. I like the idea of the doctor just like housing a big fucking hot dog during his break or right before he gives the diagnosis. Like, I need my strength to break this bad news. Make me one with everything. Walt gets home to Skylar, and Skylar is negotiating for an unpaid bill. He asked, how his day went. He's, it's fine. Which credit card did you use? Did you make a, payment at Staples? He's absolutely head in the air, but again, the money trouble, like she's still on Earth. We cut to him. We're kind of cutting through time because he's blasted. He's back at the car wash spacing out. And then Bogdan tells him like, hey, go wipe down the cars again, this thing that they had negotiated that he's not going to do.
Yeah. And he loses it. And says, fuck you, Bogdan, fuck you and your eyebrows. Then it messes up the air freshener display just in an absolute tantrum, grabs his crotch and says, wipe down this.
Wipe down this is good.
Just such an impotent, God, I love it.
Yeah, it's really good. And also, the dream.
Well, yes, of course.
Quitting. That night he's sitting, I think this is the morning because he asked Hank whether he woke him up. I think this is early in the morning the next day.
There we go.
At sunrise, he's sitting by his backyard pool, lighting matches and throwing them into the water, which is a real, depressed thing to do, but also the kind of thing you do with your hands when you're just faced with enormous truth. The pool is in disrepair as well. Like they don't really use it, and he calls Hank, hey, I hope I didn't wake you up. No, nothing's wrong. I was thinking about that ride along.
Yes. And we cut over to it. Walt in a ridiculously oversized, like bulletproof vest kind of thing, sitting in the back there. We get to meet Gomi, and we get to see Hank and Gomi's relationship right away, arguing like an old married couple about the color of a house.
Yes. Gomi was at the party as well, but this is first, Gomi's thing. And Gomi's funny. I like this character a lot.
Stephen Kazada.
No, he's great. The target, they have a snitch. The target goes by Captain Cook. His trademark is putting a little bit of chili powder in his methamphetamines. And they start placing a bet about the nationality of the perpetrator, using some slurs. Hank is much more racist in the early seasons. We talked about this in the last episode. They dial back on this.
Yes.
Realizing that the show would be better if we were capable of liking Hank, which I think was a really good move.
Yeah. But yes, they make the bet about whether or not he will be, somebody from south of the border, and then they roll in. Hank coming right at the Valkyrie is just totally living into the power fantasy kind of aspect of this.
Yeah, which is cops. They do this shit. They come in. Emilio is cooking, but he's got headphones on, so they manage to breach, and they catch him. They check in on the nationality, the name of the perpetrator, and get Emilio Kiyama, which Gomi says that's not Mexican, and Hank says it's half Mexican.
Because of the name. Lol.
Because of the name. Yep. Just Hank being kind of crappy. Walt, at this point, the idea is percolating in his head, right? Like, I don't necessarily think he was like, I'm going to cook meth when he decided to do the ride along. It's slowly coming together. He asks if he can see the lab, and they hesitantly agree. Yeah. As they go to secure it, he sees, again, in something very cartoonish that wouldn't happen in later seasons, a man coming out of a window and Pratt falling out in his underwear after besting a big titty MILF.
Yep. Besting, jeez.
Besting. It feels very like a bard or like Dandelion from The Witcher or something. It's that kind of scenario.
It is, yeah. Him falling out and falling off of a second-story balcony, and then just this naked lady throwing him his clothes so he can run away from the cops.
It's the kind of thing that happens all the time in like sitcoms and shit, but not very much in real life. Like, it's that season 1, episode 1 heightened shorthand that they're doing to get everybody on the page real quick before they dial it back and start doing things that feel a little bit more lived in.
Yeah, Jesse, irresponsible, kind of horny guy. He's a kid. He's living fast.
Yeah. Walt makes eye contact and recognizes him. Jesse, looks over and recognizes Walt and gives him a shh motion, and then rides away in his car, which says the Cap'n. So he's the Cap'n Cook in this scenario.
Yep. Every scenario has one.
Yes.
And here we get kind of one of Walt's first acts of violence against Jesse here. I forgot how hard he put the screws on him, right at the start of their relationship. But it's later that night, and, Jesse's covering up his car with a tarp, trying to get out of sight, thinking people are going to be after him. And Walt pulls up. Jesse grabs a tire iron, but he's like, hey, nobody's after you. I'm just here to talk.
Yeah. He was curious, Jesse's still in their system with this house. It's like, I didn't expect much of you, but I didn't expect you to cook meth, and Jesse's just, what the fuck is this? We're not friends. What are you doing?
His hard ass chemistry teacher, who was always writing him, is, suddenly here on, if not one of the worst days of his life so far, a very stressful one.
Extremely stressful. And it's like, you're not the boss of me anymore. The power structure has changed. He basically says this to him, but Walt pushes through and makes his proposal. He's like, listen, I know you lost everything. I know you lost your partner. You lost all your money and your equipment. Let's start our new partnership. Let's work together. You know the business and I know the chemistry. He delivers that line real self-satisfied there. Yeah. Jesse's like, I don't want to do this. And here's where Walt, he's tried the carrot. He does the stick. Yeah. How about if you don't do this, I'll turn you in. It's a shitty thing to do to Jesse. We also, Jesse's a meth cook who didn't get caught during this thing, and Walt's brother is the DA. Like, he could also just turn him in and it wouldn't be out of character. It's using it as leverage, which is the villainous part.
Yeah. He could have been an upright citizen and, narked on this shitty kid.
Yeah.
But,
which I'm not saying I support that. It just would have been in line with the morality of the show. It's a bad act that he does that he turns the thumb screws on Jesse in the context of Breaking Bad and who Walt is, not within the context of like the world of the show.
Yeah. It is a specific kind of violence to Jesse, using Jesse for his own purposes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We go over to Skylar packing up an eBay sale. I think this is where she says, like, she got it's $16 for something, and I'm like, you don't ship stuff for less than $20. Like, don't drive out to the post office, Skylar.
No.
She's packing things up, and Marie criticizes her for what she's selling. Like, what is that? What even is that? This is a really good little portrait of Marie. Yeah, here.
It's also a scene that doesn't really go anywhere.
No. It certainly doesn't go anywhere. It's just establishing Marie, which we didn't get a scene during the party, really. Yeah. Where, she says, how's the book going? She's like, well, it's not a novel, it's short stories. And Marie says, I could read it if you wanted some feedback. And Skylar like, no, like just kind of smile, like, I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah, no, not you, not this. Yeah. I just love the balls. I thought a novel would be easier to sell.
Yeah, it's very Marie. Like Marie she's not a publisher,
right?
Why? I don't know why she would know that. She's just
also not her business.
It's none of her business. Like she's just guessing. Like it's good to have the scene for that, even if it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. They move on from it, and Marie asks, like, hey, what's up with Walt lately? And this is. Skylar says, 50 is a big deal, and Skylar says she isn't looking forward to 40. I forgot about the age gap there. And it's pretty problematic.
It's extremely canceled.
Canceled.
Yeah. Can't believe we're canceling Walter White. The Marie, prizes how's the sex, and Skylar, Marie, Jesus. She's like, I guess that answers that. Just Skylar's pretty uptight. At this point, we're going to see that when she first starts interfacing with Jesse. Like she is very naive about the world.
Yeah.
And her losing that is a big part of her arc. Like it's the tragedy of Skylar is she becomes very deft at this world when she didn't even know existed.
Right. And ends up being able to navigate it when she never should have had to.
Yeah. And resist, getting those skills for a long time. Walt takes all the chemistry crap from school and drives the goods over to Jesse's place, and he starts bragging about the glassware that he has. This is a real failure of know your audience to Jesse. Like, even I'm not Jesse, but if somebody came up to me with a piece of glass, I was like, "This is a 500 milliliter round bottom boiling flask." I wouldn't be impressed by that.
It's like, these are really hard to get.
Are they?
I wouldn't know.
They're big glasses. Like I somehow don't believe you.
There's probably a catalog.
Yeah, there's literally no way any of this stuff is hard to get. It's glass. Like we know how to make cups and stuff. There's science supply places.
Yeah. And Jesse, he just tries to, tell Walt, like, hey, this isn't just, I cook in one of these. It's this little flat bottomed kind of thing. And Walt's like, no, he goes in a teacher mode. That's for titration. That's for general mixing.
Yeah.
What about specific mixing, Walt?
Yeah. Like general mixing. Jesse is trying to style on him. And show expertise, like this isn't science, it's an art. And Walt's like, no, it's definitely science. Like we're going to make a pure, reliable product with no chili powder, and oh, fuck that. Chili P is my,
it's my signature,
my signature and stuff. And eventually Jesse tries to draw the line of the protective gear that he finds.
Look, if you want to dress like an F slur, go ahead.
Yeah. This is early on and that all that stuff like that came out on Twitter and was like a goofy thing for a little bit, like a week ago. Like this is
2008. Like it's not good. It's not good behavior, but
yeah. But what were people trying to do by putting it out? Like this little scumbag drug dealer kid who grows and changes was not respectful about homophobic slurs. Like. What else he got on him, man? He dissolved somebody in acid pretty soon. Like, Like, Jesus Christ, Twitter.
Depiction is not endorsement. They're not saying Jesse is the way to be.
Yeah, it just, and Jesse becomes the way to be. Like, ultimately, Jesse gets becomes a really good character. Like, it has a redemption arc. Like, there are redeeming characteristics to Jesse. 100%. People are fucking complicated. Let them be complicated.
Please.
I hated that week of that screenshot rolling around. Like, a bunch of people decide to rewatch the show and are like, to Twitter. Like, God damn it, discourse is annoying.
Yeah, discourse is quite annoying, but everybody should know our official stance as people who talk about this show is that we endorse everything depicted. So.
Yes, that's us, because we're media illiterate idiots. Walt, Jesse says this stuff stays here for overnight, at most, and Walt goes, "No, aren't we going to cook here?" And Jesse's like, "No, I live here." I like this little bit. Like, he's like, "I don't shit where I eat." Walt starts pushing back. He's like, "Okay, let's do it at your house." And this is, again, it's good characterization stuff. Walt doesn't see Jesse as a person.
Oh no,
really, during the whole show, but just this idea of not having that empathy, like it having to be pointed out to him, like, yeah, you don't want to cook where you live. I live here. That's just as valid as where you live. I'm not an NPC. Well, like, I have a house and I like it. I don't want it to be all messed up.
And it's also like, Walt knows what kind of byproducts are going to come off of this thing.
Yeah.
He's saying, "Oh, Jesse, why don't we cook at your house?" When later he doesn't want to ruin what is probably a $20 button-up shirt.
Yeah. It's really good characterization here. They're kind of pitching stuff back and forth on what to do. They want to use a self-storage unit, but the dogs sniff those. And Jesse pitches an RV. He says that'd be the best. I know somebody's looking to sell it. So we cut over to the bank where Walt takes out his family savings, $7,000, and gives it to Jesse.
Yes. And Jesse needs to know, like, okay, money's changing hands here. I need to know why you're doing this. And Walt asks, okay, well, why are you doing it? And Jesse says, money, mostly. He says, okay, yeah, let's just go with that. Right. And just says, okay, so some straight like you, giant stick up his ass, he turns 60 and he's just going to break bad. They're throwing in, hey, that's the title, but also like asking a pretty reasonable question, which is, if I'm going to do this risky thing, like, I need to know that you're not crazy or depressed, like, just how much of a danger are you going to be to me?
Yes. And he it almost seems like he's going to confess at this point and say that he has cancer. He doesn't. Instead, he says he's awake.
Probably the most alarming thing somebody who has asked, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah, I'm awake.
I'm awake. Oh no.
Yeah, that means especially in 2022. Eyes at the time, maybe that has some wiggle room, but it definitely seems like it's about reptilians or whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm not even doing it from like a from a QAnon kind of angle. I'm just saying, like, no, that's not the answer. Okay, you answered the question, but you didn't realize it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the answer. It's not saying what you want it to.
And this is post-American Beauty, right?
Yeah. He says, I'm awake. Jesse goes, what? He goes, just buy the RV. We start tomorrow. The name of the AV Club Breaking Bad book. That's stuck in my head for some reason. I have not read it. Does our friend... I want to see if Zach Hanlon worked on that. He did not. I think he did an X-Files.
He did X-Files stuff for them.
Yes, but not the Breaking Bad one. But Zach, if we end up doing guest at some point in the show, Zach will show up.
Yeah,
Zach's a big fan. I don't know whether we will. So we go over to the mall where Walt Jr. is trying on jeans. He ends up needing help to put on his jeans. When they got in the store, some awful little kids are laughing and making fun of Walt Jr., thinking he is mentally, disabled.
Yeah. And both Walt and Skylar get furious. And, Walt walks out the back of the store, and Skylar is about to go up and give them a piece of her mind. When Walt comes in the front door and just bodies this guy, this tall teen, stomps on the back of his knee, gets him down, and then just says, like, hey, you having trouble walking? as he, stands on the guy's leg. Yeah. Of all of the, like, I'm asserting my will as a man stuff that he's done, this is probably the only uncomplicated good.
This is awesome. There are moments of one of the reasons that both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul work for me is that they trick me. Like, they'll do something that activates my righteousness centers or fun centers, and then makes me regret it. So, like, here, like, this is awesome. Fuck those kids.
But it's on the road too.
Yes, this feels like justice, and in a way that feels good. Similar to how Better Call Saul constantly does these schemes that feel like fun and then have horrible consequences.
Yeah,
like, as in the season, the final thing, that big thing that happens in that show that just is like so fun to see unfold and then feels so awful.
Oh yeah.
This is that over a long period of time.
I think that the line rests somewhere between here and what he did to Ken. All Ken did was be a douche.
Ken deserved it. I'm fine with Ken losing it. That's nothing to me.
I'm not standing up for Ken. I'm just, it's pretty dangerous.
It's pretty dangerous. I can't care about a car. No matter who owns it, even if I owned it, like, give me 1,000 cars and I'll toss them in the ocean. I don't give a shit. Cars, I just cannot understand the value of.
The intention here, standing up for his son and teaching somebody a lesson about, being shitty about disabilities. Intention, good, thumbs up. Being angry that a guy cut in front of you, no. No,
I think he was also angry about the guy, what he said on the phone and his license plate.
Oh yeah.
So don't undersell it. He also talked.
He also talked.
Like, don't get little Ken off the hook, man. He used.
I'm not letting him off the hook. It's just
you've seen somebody talking on Bluetooth. It sucks.
Yeah.
So Walt and Jesse take the RV out to the desert. Jesse surveys the area. It's like 2 miles out. There's a cow house.
Where the cows live.
I love that. I love cow house. Walt strips down. He doesn't want to go home smelling like a meth lab. I love Jesse being like, why not? I do. Funny line.
Yeah. And Walt goes in, and Jesse's, he's got his little camcorder there, decides to, to stunt on him, to pull a prank, go in and, make stripper music noise. Just heckling a Walt for standing there.
Videotaping this crime spree was the smartest thing we ever did.
And then we get the cooking montage with Jesse goofing off. Okay, I made a note about the horrible rap metal. So that is later.
That's later, yeah. There's no rap metal just yet. There's still music, but the music is inoffensive.
Yes.
They make their meth, and Jesse admires it. This is glass. You're an artist. These crystals are 2 to 3 inches long. Like, this is perfect. And Walt basks it, in it a little bit, because Walt is an ego elemental. It's just basic chemistry, but thank you. I'm glad it's acceptable. He does not know the context of what good meth is.
Right.
But he is incredibly eager for something that he is the best at.
Right.
To manifest. And this is him being told, hey, this thing you do, your job is a joke, and you are a joke to your wife, who gives you half an HJ for your birthday. All these things are a joke. You're excellent at this.
Yeah.
And that's intoxicating as shit.
There is demand for this. People want what you make, and they will respect you for making it.
Yep. And that's all he needed. That is the hook.
And him saying to Jesse, I'm glad it's acceptable, when, the relative quality of their meth, and whether, Jesse has been a good study, right? And is worthy of kind of making this product, how that becomes a wedge and ultimately is like profound emotional violence that Walt does to Jesse, makes this particular exchange kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yep. It's very important.
Yes.
Jesse's going to have some, and Walt says, no, we don't do that. We don't do the drug. We just make it.
Yes.
And Jesse says, you watch too much Miami Vice. That ain't happening. But then he does not take it. He's like, I know exactly who to sell it to. And we cut over to one of the more, like, if the Always Sunny gang like walked in on this is one of the more menacing things you can be doing.
Yep.
You know, just walking in a room and there's a guy training a Rottweiler to eat crotches, and like you're just like, well, shit, I got a crotch. I'm not welcome.
This is not a safe location for anymore. So I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna bounce.
Yeah. Training this Rottweiler to be an attack dog. I always love hearing about Hollywood dogs. Just like, oh yeah, that dog was an absolute sweetheart. And like we had to dub in the growls because he just wouldn't do it. We couldn't get him to growl.
It's so sweet. Dogs are so good.
Yep. But this is kind of the antagonist here for a little bit until we are introduced to bigger fish. It is very funny how meager he is in the scheme of things. You know?
Yeah. But it's still, they're working up the line, right? Like, they have to start somewhere, and they're going to climb the cartel ladder.
Low level distributor.
Yeah. He gives it to him. Crazy. It's like, oh, that's okay. And Jesse's like, bullshit. It's just okay. That's just the bomb.
He calls it the best tick.
The best tick. The best scanjo or scungy or whatever. Scante. God, meth slang. He's like, hey, oh yeah, and your cousin. I'm sorry what happened to him. Which could have led with that. Emilio is Crazy 8's cousin. Emilio's like, hey, it's funny you say that because Crazy 8 thinks that you narked on him.
Yeah, or Emilio thinks you narked on him.
Emilio thinks that you narked on him, and I also think that I'm Crazy 8. Just like, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. I should kick his ass for saying that. And then Emilio walks down the stairs.
Yeah. Okay, I'm here. You want to kick my ass? Yeah. And Crazy 8, he just kind of drops the shit saying like, hey, I really need, you didn't cook this. Where did you get it? Yeah. And now Jesse is in this bad situation with two guys who hate him, have all of his product, and Jesse's going to lead him to the cook site. Oh, and guns. Yes, there are guns.
There are guns. They drive him out to the cook site. Crazy 8 shows him this, all this money, this kind of like gallon bag, this huge freezer bag full of money for the cook. And it seems like it's going to be fine, initially. It was like, hey, did you make this, old man? He's like, Walt says he can sell it to him, but this all gets fucked up when Emilio recognizes Walt.
Yes. So like, hey, you were there for the DEA, and then it becomes this just hilarious little chase.
Yep. Jesse screams, get down or run, Mr. White. Mr. White, tries to run. Jesse ends up getting pinned down. Jesse gets knocked out at a certain point. He trips and like lands on a rock and smacks his head here. And Crazy 8 is about to just, murk Walt there. And Walt says, hey, you like my stuff. I can teach you. This is, again, a scenario Walt's going to end up in 1,000 times throughout the series. Like, I'm going to negotiate my way out of this problem. Yes. Similar thing to what ended up happening with Saul. They have different perspectives for it, but like it ends up becoming meta in Better Call Saul when like Lalo calls him out for it. Like, you can talk, you're good at that. What happens if I don't let you talk?
The mouth on you. Yeah.
Same thing with Walt here.
Yeah. And he wins. He passes the persuasion check, figuring, okay, I will trade this valuable knowledge for my life. Right.
Yeah. They were going to kill him anyway.
Well, yeah. Walt knows that they were going to kill him anyway, regardless of what he did. So he gets the opportunity, because earlier, he was talking about, Hank had said, oh yeah, these labs can produce mustard gas. And Walt corrects him saying, oh yeah, phosphine. Doing a little bit of foreshadowing here. He's gonna death trap them.
In the early first season, where he uses a bunch of cool science stuff to get out of capers, eventually goes down. He ends up. There's another thing that happens here where Emilio is smoking, and he's like, put out the cigarette, contaminants. He throws out the window, which causes a brush fire. They get impatient with him. He's being really slow because he's hesitating to do it. Right. Yeah. He's grabs the red phosphorus and he's considering whether he should do it. Like, it's not easy for him to take a life at this point. Right. I believe that it's possible he would not have done it if they did not put their guns to his head.
Yes.
at this point, and like really say like, listen, like you are in mortal danger. Anything you do is justified.
Yes.
So yeah, he throws it in, holds his breath, and runs outside. Really thrilling sequence. You hear them coughing and yelling inside. He's holding the door closed, and then they both pass out as they shoot through the door.
Yeah.
Really great.
5 bullet holes there that they just tape over.
Yep. Really, really great. And then a really irritating song that made up entirely of the breakdown from
Corn's Freak on a Leash.
Freak on a Leash. Like little Beavis noises. Like what if a Beavis goblin
got
wrapped over this thing? Yeah. Yeah, like really obnoxious.
As Walt rescues Jesse from the brush fire, and we see the facial prosthetic that Jesse has to wear, that makeup with his completely swollen shut eye there. Puts the mask on him, puts the gas mask on him, puts him in the RV, and then they drive away.
Yeah. And that catches up with the beginning. One real quick note about the clips I've seen of Metastasis is that the absolute heartthrob they have who plays the Jesse character never gets beat up. He just ends up having like one little scar under his eye, or like,
oh, that's very funny.
A little eye makeup. It was very funny. So we're back at the beginning. We zoom out from this gun barrel. Walt is trembling. He lowers the gun. He doesn't have the nerve to fight the cops. He puts the gun under his chin. I forgot about this too. It's really important. Tries to kill himself.
Yep. Figures this is the end of the line.
Yeah. It could have ended here, and it's, I didn't take this as misfire. I took it as the safety was off, because then he fiddles with it and then it fires.
Oh yeah.
Or the safety was on rather. So I think, but he tries to kill himself here, pulls the trigger, goes all the way through with it. Doesn't work. The gun fires and this kind of snaps him out of it.
Yes.
He holds his arms out, to take what would happen. The sirens are coming and he thinks they're police, but it turns out they're fire trucks.
Yeah. They're here for the brush fire. Somebody saw the smoke. Yeah.
And dispatched every fireman in Albuquerque. It's like 4 trucks. Like, which I understand.
3.
Or it's 3. Yeah. It's a lot of fire trucks.
You gotta get that contained. And Jesse stumbles out. He's like, okay, what happened? Why are those 2 guys dead? And Walt is just kind of shell shocked, and he just recites the process for making phosphine gas, and then throws up. Just directly down. So he throws up out of frame, and he comes up and he's got some white stuff. He's got some vomit on his lips. This was Cranston's idea. He had an open can of soup attached to his ankle that he just used to kind of get some fake vomit onto his mouth for when he came back up into frame.
Yeah, he's soup ankling. It was a big thing in Albuquerque in 2008. Soup ankle.
You had to be there is the thing.
Yeah, you do the Campbell strut and just like chicken and stars your way into the dance floor.
Damn it! I was gonna do a soup pull, and mine was gonna be chicken and stars too.
It's the funniest soup.
Outside of Chunky.
Yeah, Chunky's a really good soup too. It's like a subtype of soup, but chicken and stars is so funny. So he's like, we have to clean this up. That's what they're going to do. We're not going to see that cleaning up. No. That's going to be the next couple episodes. They start playing a unlicensed version of The Passenger called Out of Time Man by Mick Harvey. As Walt pulls the money out of the dryer, I imagine I had that brown stuff all over it.
Yeah.
Having to clean it and get that smell out of it. And then gets into bed with Skylar. This is the next morning. Like he'd spent all night doing this stuff. Skylar had been up all night waiting for him.
Yeah. And she says, like, where were you? And I don't know what's going on with you, but the worst thing you can do is not, is not talk to me. Just, you can't shut me out.
Yeah. Which is, that's what he's going to do.
Yes.
He does do the worst thing that he can do here. He responds to this by, taking her. What did I say earlier?
Besting?
Besting her. He bests her. Here, it does one of those movie things where like nobody has to take off underwear to have sex. He just kind of goes up behind her and mounts her, and that's it. Yeah. Everybody's wet. Everything's lubed. There's no cloth. It just goes, there's literally no prep, but this is obviously contrasting with the sad HJ.
Yes.
He now has some sexual confidence because he feels like a man for the first time in how many decades?
Yeah. And she asks, Walt, is that you? Kind of underlining, here's the change. She does not recognize this confident guy.
It's and that's the episode. It's really efficient in terms of it establishing everything. I think that it has a heavy hand with some stuff. That gets better. I think the show significantly gets better about presenting scenes of emotional complexity or character turns in ways that don't feel quite as screenwriterly to me as this first episode does.
The show didn't really have me at this point when I initially watched it. Which is a weird thing to say because, weird thing to say this far out when I am so much in the pocket for it. When the show got me was between episode 2 and 3, the motorcycle lock, and then the bathtub, right? That to me was like, and when I would talk to people about it, like, oh yeah, like watch to there and you will know if this is for you or not, which I still think is true for people who might be getting into it during the day or now current day. So like efficient is the right word for it because the pilot does what it needs to do. Pilots are always weird unless they're like redone from the initial shot, because there's so much time in between producing them and then producing the rest of the stuff, right? I do think that they find their legs a little bit more after this, but it's still
significantly
good
so,
because like so many of the components are there.
It has to do what it has to do. We're gonna get into incredible all-timey awesome, complicated, emotional shit to chew on pretty quickly. And Marie Watch 2022, if you're wondering what's going on with her shoplifting, stay tuned to Best Quality Vacuum to find out. All you Marie heads out there are going to learn.
I feel so bad clowning on her character because her actress seems so delightful.
She's great. They just didn't give her anything to do.
Good. Yeah, that's a thing.
She was
misused. Yeah.
It's okay. Even pencils have erasers. Thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate you. It's a new show. You should rate and review it on Apple Podcast or Podcast Addict.
Thanks to everybody who has done that so far. We charted there. I haven't checked it for a while because I just don't. That isn't for me. But
it's bad for your brain.
It is.
Like it feels bad. Don't do it.
But just I got curious after the first one, and I was happy to see that people had taken the time. We really appreciate it. We hope you enjoy the ride, whether you're doing a rewatch here or just finding Breaking Bad for the first time. I was watching, I fired this up, and I'm just again so excited to be starting this new project. And man, I already started appreciating it more watching it for the show. So
I had to stop myself from continuing to just like keep watching it, which I might do and then go back and watch again right before we record.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's the, So thanks everybody. Until next time, I would like a filter. You don't have it here.
You would like a dust filter for your Hoover Max Extract Pro Extra?
Pressure Pro. I think it's a Pressure Pro. It's professional at pressure.
I need to start putting that at the end of the notes so we can have it.
We'll memorize it at some point. It's okay.
Oh yeah.
We're finding our feet as well. This is the pilot and stuff.
No, last week was the pilot.
I'm going to do something heavily symbolic. Like I'm actually probably going to urinate, and you can all guess what that means.
It doesn't mean something different when you say it slower.
I did on accident.